Recorded live from the mats of Radical MMA in New York City. The Martial Culture Podcast. Your source for in-depth combat sports and martial arts insights with Coach Rene Dreyfus and Matt Peters. Ring the bell and let's get it on.
Here we go. Bell's been rung. Hi, Renee. How are you?
I am wonderful, Matt. How's my favorite co-host?
When he gets here, I'll ask him. I said that joke when you got here, but it's still funny. I stand by it.
You know, I believe repeating jokes over and over again makes them funnier.
Yeah, and then explaining it.
Explaining
jokes makes things so much funny. If you just tell them why it's funny. Trust me, it's funny. What do you got there?
That was out for my wife. Does
she explain jokes? Or
no,
you
I
explain
explained to her and she never laughed. Yeah. Oh, I'm drinking.
What do you got there? What are you drinking there, sir?
I'm drinking matcha tea, matcha latte. It's matcha powder, which is supposed to be very healthy in antioxidants and things like that. It's dried tea leaves ground up, and it's very part of traditional Japanese culture. It's really popular at Starbucks and things like that. There's a big matcha boom right now.
Yeah.
You know, it's everywhere. I think it's too matcha. There you go. Yeah. If you let me explain that joke. See, I was going
It's like much. But much.
Exactly. Right there. Doesn't it make it funnier?
What? This sounds like a commercial. Like, is there a brand of matcha we could be plugging right now? It sounds like a commercial.
Yeah, there's a few Japanese brands. I think anything imported from Japan is generally pretty good.
Right.
I'm like, I like tea, but I'm not like so obsessive about it that I'm like, oh, I must have this brand or whatever.
Is matcha the stuff that they put in like penis pills? Is that something that they put in there?
Green tea extract. No, what they do is it's shoot, I forgot what it's called, but it's green tea extract, and they do that with the stimulants, right? What is it? The green tea extract that's supposed to make you. It's like an antioxidant. It's supposed to make you more alert.
Vessels or something.
What's I forgot what it's called, but yeah, it exists in matcha too. But it's that the extract.
No wonder you're looking at me weird.
You sexy man, you.
Help! I need an adult.
ECGC, I believe it is. I think that's what it is. It's the extract in matcha that makes you more alert. Of course, it has caffeine. Matcha actually has like a little bit more natural acting caffeine in its molecule than coffee does. And I personally, I don't enjoy coffee that much. Mm-hmm. I don't enjoy the taste. It's just a little bitter for me. It's just not my thing. I never grew up drinking coffee that much.
A lot of pumpkin spice coffee creamer in it, and then it tastes great.
I know. No, I grew up. The only coffee that I can drink is funny enough is my family's Puerto Rican style coffee, where it's like super. It's like a little coffee with a lot of milk. Yeah. But it just wasn't. It isn't my taste.
It's not your cup of tea.
It's not my cup of tea.
You were going there, weren't you?
You
were trying to find your way there. And I
yes, exactly.
I took the shortcut. Not your cup of.
But I do drink coffee to wake up. But I prefer matcha when I can get it.
Yeah,
and it's also, for those guys who don't like coffee, the matcha, it doesn't make you jittery. I find I can drink a lot of matcha, get very alert, but also I don't have the coffee jitters.
I like the jitters.
Really?
Yeah, a lot. Too much. I used to every day at like 2 o'clock I'd go out and get a huge like iced coffee from Dunkin' Donuts with the extra shots in it, and then I would just be buzzing the rest of the day. Like it would time travel me.
Wow.
5 o'clock would be here right there.
Yeah, I can understand that. I think that's alertness. When I say the jitters, I mean it's like after the coffee effect wears off, you feel like you're just depleted
and buzzing.
Yeah, not
like,
good on a good way.
Drained.
Yeah, like and a little headachy and.
I don't like that.
Yeah,
right.
I because the matcha molecule has a lot of antioxidants combined with it, so I think. It has some good things going on at the same time. It's stimulating you. So I find it. I personally, I'm not an expert, but I find it a very positive thing to drink.
I read a thing where it said if you wake up in the morning instead of having coffee or tea, just eat an apple, like right away. I find it works better if you just throw an apple at somebody's head. They wake up right away. They're alert and ready to go.
But one of the things that I don't like to drink coffee or something right away, especially as an athlete, for athletes out there, is like there's a lot of research that shows that obviously coffee dehydrates you, so you have to stay hydrated. A few instances where a couple guys came into my class and they had a cup of coffee and they couldn't make it through because they're too dehydrated, and So, there's a lot of research saying the first thing you should do when you wake up is, just get a cup of water. Drink some water.
Yeah, my wife keeps a glass of water next to the bed. When she wakes up, drinks the whole thing.
Yeah, I think that's a
good habit.
Good habit to. Yeah, exactly.
The powdered caffeine. It's not cocaine. It's actually
No.
powdered
I
caffeine.
know exactly what you're talking about.
I don't know how to get it.
Yeah, but like a lot of people are like really abusing that.
Yeah, you overdose on it really easily.
Yeah.
All right.
I remember in the college when I would do all-nighters, there was a thing called Jolt.
Oh, I remember Jolt. Yeah.
And there was these caffeine pills that I used to take, which were
No-Dose?
No-Dose, yes, exactly. I would take 4 No-Dose, 2 Jolts, and then have coffee, and then I would be up for like 2 days straight studying.
Throw a Surge on top of that and a little Adderall, and you have a good night.
I don't even know if there was. I didn't even know what Adderall was or anything like that back then. It was the 80s.
I've never done
when
it.
I was in college. No, I mean it's the therapy for people with ADHD, right?
But if you don't have it,
I heard a rumor that Donald Trump grinds up Adderall and snorts it. I don't know if it's true, but that's why
you heard it here first.
That's why that's why he's always doing this.
I'm sure it might be cocaine too.
Who knows?
I mean, he was rich in the 80s. He did.
Yeah.
He did cocaine.
Yeah.
You can tell me you didn't, but you did.
Yeah, of course. In New York.
Yeah.
In the 80s.
You were a real estate billionaire in the 80s in New York City.
Though he doesn't drink at all.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's the interesting conflux of opposites. Yeah.
He likes McDonald's.
He
KFC.
does.
This is a weird episode. How about we talk about MMA and UFC and some martial arts
like
stuff?
do a hard pivot. On,
surprising UFC fight night. I mean, we're a week late, but we can still talk about it.
Oh, my God.
Fight night 143?
Right, the first ESPN one.
Yeah, ESPN Plus.
That is a huge thing to be on ESPN, and I think, it's something. First of all, my absolute favorite thing about this is that Fox Sports music is gone. Mm-hmm. Oh God, I hated that.
Although I watched an ESPN video they put on like YouTube of a breakdown, like highlights of stuff, and they put dubstep in the background, like really electronic, hard music.
I would take that
You'll
over
take
that,
it?
like
All
that
right.
football horrible Fox music. The first thing I turn on the ESPN channel, and it has the old UFC the old UFC background music from the old, they still used it on the pay-per-views, but, they didn't use it on the fight nights. I'm like, thank God it's back.
Yeah.
And I hated that
I think
music.
ESPN is a good move.
It is. It's great. And it's part of the old Zuffa. And UFC's not really Zuffa anymore, or at least it's not run by the Fertitta brothers. The idea was to make MMA ubiquitous, and this is the first real step to that. Where, every Friday they used to have boxing, or every Monday they have football or whatever. They're just going to have MMA all the time, and I'm not sure if that's. I understand why they're doing it, just to make it part of American culture, and it's. I think it's already there, but it does make the what's the word? The star power diminishes for the individual athletes, and it makes making a living harder. There was only one Randy Couture in the 90s. Now there's there's a whole lot of MMA stars, and I don't know if that's a bad thing or a good thing. I generally don't like to focus on the the side stuff. I like to focus on what happens when they lock the cage door and goes on. But that the MMA is becoming a more and more accessible, more ubiquitous, I think is probably a positive thing in general.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah. Though I guess you could make the argument either way. It's interesting. But it was a well-produced card. And, man, one great fight after another after.
So intense.
Unbelievable.
Too.
Unbelievable.
Nothing, no snorers.
Yeah, no, I mean.
In the main card, at least.
Yeah, and even the undercard. I mean, it was absolutely. I was like, oh, nothing could top that fight. Oh, nothing can top that fight. Oh my God, here's the main event. The only horrible fight was the co-main event, the Hardy Crowder fight, which was just.
Oh yeah, that was a black guy, literally.
Yeah, it was horrible for so many reasons, and we can talk about it. But the first thing is, we had Joanna Calderwood, who was basically a Muay Thai fighter, and she came in and she showed that she's not. She's an MMA fighter, and she just completely dominated with experience and grappling. And you had just so many things. Of course, there was the Cerrone fight, the Teixeira fight, Van Zandt fight. Joe Benavidez, who's always amazing, Yancy Medeiros, and of course the main event, Cejudo Dillashaw. Fight after fight was just amazing. And you know what? The key martial art in almost every single one of these fights, not every single one, but so many of them, They think I'm going to say jiu-jitsu. No, it was wrestling. It was wrestling. It was so many of these fights. It was not the positional struggle of jiu-jitsu, which is always very important, but it was the ability to scramble that was so critical in many of these fights, and it was a night of wrestling. It was a night.
I was
of
watching
great
the Van Zant highlights again this
Yeah,
morning,
yeah, yeah.
and they were just all
all
transitions
over
all over the
all
place.
over
It was
the place.
amazing.
Amazing. And Paige Van Zant, I respect her a lot. She's a great grappler, and so is Ostovich, who, give her credit. She came back from a serious. She was attacked by her husband and had some issues. Her orbital bone was fractured, so she was gonna not fight. But give her credit, she fought that fight. And Van Zant, striking still needs work, but the grappling transitions back and forth were just unbelievable. Two really experienced MMA grapplers, and that was just such a great exchange of technique, and two real warriors. And I remember it was like, Ostovich was just crushing Van Zant with wrestling. Then she gets her back, and then Van Zant throws her, just tosses her off her back, and then recovers, and then she takes her back. It was back and forth, and then Ostovich tried to throw her off the same way, and then got caught in an armbar. And that armbar is like a really interesting hybrid of two different armbars. There's a rolling armbar and a triangle armbar, and it was kind of halfway between the two. And she went belly down, and she just took it, and it was. I hope Ostovich's arm is okay, because that was a hard tap, and she let go. She broke the rules. You're not supposed to let go of the hold until the referee pulls you off, but she did.
Good for her.
Because she didn't want to hurt Ostovich too badly, and that's some really beautiful sportsmanship. And Ostovich, of course, legitimately recognized the tap, and it was good. It was a great fight. Let's talk about Cerrone, though. I know you want to talk about the Cerrone Hernandez fight, right?
I'm kind of over Cerrone.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I mean, I think it was a great fight, and I know that he wasn't expected to win. It was kind of a very big surprise.
Trying to throw into the wolves, yeah.
I've liked him a long time. For since I really started seeing him in MMA.
Yeah.
But he's obviously been going downhill a little bit and getting older. And,
yeah, for sure.
And kind of having the wear and tear from just being a fighter. I'm glad to see him have a great win. But then afterwards, it's Conor McGregor's calling him out. He's calling out Conor. I don't want to see that.
Yeah, because you like him, you don't want him to get hurt. You're saying, right?
Yeah, and I don't think it'd be a good fight.
Really? All right, I agree with you, because it's funny. I'm a Cerrone fan. Like, some of the stuff he does is just awesome, and he's the first Muay Thai guy to really get exceptional at grappling in MMA. Like, they're not only those guys, but they were more of an exception than a rule, and he's a phenomenal grappler. But he walked in the cage, and he looks like a 50-year-old grandpa. I mean, you're like, dude, what happened? And he's slow. But he was obviously being thrown to the wolves, where Matt Hernandez is the next Sage Northcutt, the next, poster boy, young guy. And they do this all the time. The new Zuffa guys do this even more than and it doesn't always work out, but they take an old guy and they want the new guy to make the name off of the old guy, so they can kind of promote them. And, they try to do it with BJ Penn and Ryan Hall, and they did it, obviously. They tried to do it with, who was it recently? There was another fight recently where it was, it was an old guy versus a young guy, and the old guy won. I think it Bellator too, but, they do it all the time. They put in one of the old stars and as lamb to the slaughter, and you could tell this is exactly what they're doing. And Hernandez was the favorite; he was the betting favorite, and Cerrone came in and threw a clinic, with a basic fundamental jab and a little bit of he uses basic Muay Thai knee, very very fundamental combinations. You controlled the distance and pinpoint destruction. Just pinpoint accuracy and destruction, and you could tell he was a slower guy, and then he just crushed him. It was a masterclass in a, which is it's harder to do in striking, but it obviously you can do it. It's much easier to do in jiu-jitsu, where it's like a less athletic person defeats a more athletic person, and because striking is a little bit more athletic based, it's timing, it's speed, power. it's harder to do, much harder to do in striking. But you could see he was slower. He's on his downhill, but the experience and the use of his reach and his strategy and his just understanding of what Hernandez was bringing to the table. A lot of, it's just nice to see a veteran just pull it off with just technique and experience. And that's cool. One for the old guys.
The UFC's plan backfired.
It totally did. But, it doesn't really – I don't know if it ever backfires because they're like, oh, okay, if Matt Hernandez is not going to be a star, we'll find another one. They have a lot of guys in the wings. Yeah, that's kind of sad, but it is true because, hey, this is a fight camp, buddy. If you're not winning, you're not winning.
Well, where does he go next? Where does Cerrone go next? Do you think that he's going to go against McGregor? Or is he – I mean – doesn't seem like a money fight to me either. McGregor wouldn't go for a fight that's not a money fight.
I don't even know. You know me. I don't really follow that. I haven't. I didn't even know they called each other out. So I guess we'll see what happens. I would like to see it technically. McGregor is. He just got the crap kicked out of him, and if he wants to walk, bring it way up, he's to start fighting people, and earn a spot with the championship fight. Who knows? But he doesn't have to fight anymore.
He could, yeah.
I mean, he McGregor. I'm like, he doesn't need the money. So if you're gonna fight, you got to earn your spot just like everybody else.
Yeah. I'm gonna do a little name dropping right now. When I was hanging out with Al Iaquinta a couple weeks ago, we were talking about his who he wants to fight next, and it was, do you want to fight McGregor or Khabib?
What did he say?
He said Khabib.
Yeah, of course.
Because he wants the
belt.
rematch.
Yeah.
He doesn't want the money. Because
Right.
the money would come with fighting Conor McGregor, but he preferred to have.
Yeah, because he's a warrior.
Rematch, yeah.
He's a warrior. I think most warriors think like that. I want to fight the best guy and test myself against the best guy.
Yeah.
And when you start thinking like a businessman, you kind of lose your sense of martial arts. Now, that being said, you have to have a balance. You have to think about your career. You have to think about how you can eat. But at the same time, as a martial artist, you're always going to seek challenge and growth. And like everything, I think there's balance. You can't forget about your post fight financial situation, but you also can't be dominated by that and only take fights that bring you money.
I think Cerrone got the fight of the night and something like that. He got 2 prizes, which got him an extra $100,000.
Yeah, that's good for him, man. I am like. And I love a lot of what Cerrone does. And he can't, some of the stuff that I like he does, he actually can't do it anymore because he's so beaten down. I wonder, I think, he left Greg Jackson's camp. And I don't know what his camp, his camp in his house, and I don't know how that's working for him, his training. And, he does kind of train himself, which is really not a good idea. And so, I would say if he's going to take a high-level fight, he has to have a high-level entourage of people behind him helping him and servicing him. Yeah. And that's kind of, I want to talk about that later, but that's kind of what something that made the Dillashaw-Cejudo fight interesting is all the science and the entourages behind them. So it wasn't just a fight of 2 guys, but it was a fight of a team of experts, so that's something I want to talk about later. But okay, so the Cerrone Hernandez was just a masterclass in fundamentals, and then there was another one, the Teixeira fight. So okay, this is it, right? So I have to say that I missed a certain part of this fight because I had to go to the bathroom or something. I forgot what I did. So I'm watching the fight, and Teixeira's getting shellacked. He shoots in for a takedown, makes a big mistake. Do you remember that old Travis Brown fight? I think it was Travis Brown and Josh Barnett, where Josh Barnett hit a shot, and then Travis Brown just started elbowing him in the temple. And he just ate it. Right, that's what happened. So Teixeira shoots in. He's eating these awful elbows. Then he kind of winds up in half guard bottom, and he's playing it like, honestly, I really respect Teixeira, but he's playing it in a kind of sport jiu-jitsu way where he's diving one hand underneath, and he's eating horrible shots from dot and half guard. Doesn't work. He gets mounted. I'm like, oh, this fight's over. I'm going to go to the bathroom, right? I come back, like, literally 3 seconds later, he's on top with an arm triangle locked in, tapping the guy out. I'm like, whoa! There was another one where I was like, what? So I can't comment on what happened. I have to find a place to rewatch it. But he turned the fight around, and, again, I said it's hard. Teixeira's, he's another one where, maybe he should think about hanging up the gloves a little bit. But he keeps consistently doing well, so I guess he's okay.
39.
I remember he fought someone recently, and then he just knocked him out. I forgot who it was, but everybody thought he was going to lose, right? And but he grappling is a way to nullify.
Rashad Evans, he knocked out.
Yeah. No, more recently. It was like last fight. He
Corey Anderson, he lost.
Oh, he lost to Corey
And then
Anderson?
he beat Misha
Cirkunov.
Cirkunov.
Yeah, that was,
Yeah.
Yeah, he was supposed to lose that one, I think, and he just wrecked him.
I remember when he fought John Jones, of course. That
Yeah,
was a good
yeah,
fight.
that was a great fight. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that was like kind of the peak of his career, and,
Yeah, I
and
think
after
that
that,
was-
it's hey, he's been around forever. And same with Cerrone. I mean, Cerrone has had more fights, in the modern era that I can remember. And I remember when he was in WEC, he was fighting back when I was still fighting, and that's 15 years ago or
Oh,
something.
jeez, I didn't even realize Cerrone wasn't even on the main card.
Yeah, no, he was in the blackout fights, the dark fights, the non-main card fights.
That fight, I mean, get rid of Greg Hardy and put Cerrone up on the main card. I
Yeah.
don't want to give Greg Hardy too much airtime, but that guy was a jerk.
Yeah. Well, okay, let's talk about it. Like, we're kind of jumping ahead, but there was
Sorry.
the Benavidez-Ortiz fight, which was just so technical. The wrestling transitions were absolutely unbelievable. And this was like what I think of as a true shoot boxing match. Now, for the guys not familiar, shoot boxing is striking and takedowns together. And what you did was you saw a real blend of the two arts. And that's kind of where MMA is going, is like, okay, we're not doing Muay Thai, we're not doing boxing, we're not doing wrestling. We're doing everything together. So I always train this with my guys: jab, cross, double, come up, crush him with a body lock, knee, overhand elbow to the single. Boom. It's like there's no difference between the arts. And this is what that was. It was an unending series of wrestling transitions back and forth. One of the most unbelievable, like just phenomenally entertaining fights, grappling-based entertaining fights I've seen in a long time. But of course, they were striking too. These guys were just wars. And Ortiz, he'll be back. It was just amazing. And then the next fight, I talked about this guy on our podcast a lot, Gregor Gillespie. This guy is going to be he's Long Island's Khabib, and he is going to be something else.
He's local?
Yeah, he's out in Long Island.
I'll reach out to him.
Belmore.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, he was born in Webster, which is a suburb of Rochester. That's interesting.
no kidding.
That's right.
Yeah. But this guy, he likes going like fly fishing or something up there. He's a real old school guy.
Belmore kickboxing.
Yeah. Gillespie is so talented, and he is just good at everything. And Yancy Medeiros got off one punch, and Gregor Gillespie got off like 50, on the ground. It was just destroyed him. And Yancy Medeiros is, Holloway's main training partner. This guy is, maybe he's not like the best guy in the world, but he is legit.
Mm-hmm.
And he's had a great career. And to just completely nullify a guy like that, and he does that Gillespie does that every single fight. When he fought Ving Pinchel, he is going to be someone we're going to talk about for a long time. He is amazing. And he's a wrestler who's now becoming a really good striker.
Yeah.
And, he's got very good sense of jiu-jitsu too. So, utter domination by Gregor Gillespie.
That's
He's
awesome.
like an American. He reminds me of like another version of George St. Pierre, but even better with the takedowns.
I went to prom at his high school.
Gregor Gillespie.
The same
Oh,
year.
yeah.
He's
He's
younger
you went
than
to
me.
prom with him. I was like,
No,
oh.
just same school, different. I went
Well,
with a girl.
Well, yeah, but he's amazing. Okay, now let's go on to the Hardy Crowder fight, which was just a travesty. And just, what was your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the Hardy Crowder fight?
I didn't like the hype going into it. First of all, I didn't understand why that was a co-main event. I think it was a circus.
Totally.
I think that they brought him in there because of who he was.
I didn't even know who he was. He's like some football dude who got kicked out of football.
Kicked out of football.
Why did he get kicked out?
For the same thing for domestic violence.
Domestic violence.
Yeah, and that's why it was such a
kidding.
big deal that he was on the same fight card as
Rachel
Ostovich.
For domestic violence.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's
I
terrible.
think he did jail time too, and he was
What?
just. I think he did I don't want to say it without knowing for sure, but I'm
Right.
pretty sure he did jail time, and he was suspended from the NFL. No team would ever take him.
So
And
his NFL career
is
just
done.
fell through, right?
Yeah.
I know the announcers were saying that he appreciated the second, chance. And
he
this
blew it.
yeah, okay, this is my take. First of all, no excuse. this guy cheated, but I don't think it was intentional. He's just not experienced. Like
Yeah,
that
where
guy.
did he come from?
Yeah, like he just sucks. I mean, the other guy was beating him, and you could see he was about to quit. This, like, let me tell you, like, there's a few football guys who've gone into MMA, and none of them has been really any good.
Yeah.
There's like
Herschel Walker, is he?
yeah, but he only had like 2 fights.
Yeah,
I
he
mean,
was
okay,
jacked, though, on
yeah, right.
steroids.
Yeah, he was also in the 50s. I give him credit, but like winning 2 fights doesn't mean you're any good. You know what I mean? Like you reach the top of the spectrum because everything, there's like, oh, these guys are so athletic and so this and that, and then the athletics we talk about this, it becomes a trap. So they don't really, they just use their athletics in the gym instead of like learning how to be technical. Now look at Brendan Schaub. Brendan Schaub,
He played football?
Yeah, he was a football dude, and he sucked. And he was actually
sucked at
look,
MMA
Matt Mitrione sucks. Matt Mitrione sucks. Sucks. That's why
I'll clip that for a soundbite.
Yeah, please put on Matt Mitrione fucking sucks. Like,
Wow.
like, God damn it, he sucks.
Do you have personal experience with him? Or?
No. He's like, I hate watching him fight. It just sucks. Sucks. Right? Like he just sucks.
I don't think I worry about watching him fight.
I don't know if you got that. I don't think I repeated that enough.
He sucks.
Yeah, but most of the guys who come from the football background just don't do well. Okay, yeah, they got great attributes. So martial arts is much more than attributes.
It's different.
It's more than size.
science.
Yeah, and to think that you're going to get by with just attributes is just silly. And do you see it in the fight? He's first of all, his energy systems, as Gilson, we talked about this a little bit, are not optimized for combat. They're optimized for football. Football gives you quite a bit of rest. You do a thing, you stop. I don't really know that much about football, but it's not like in consistent
Short
fighting.
bursts,
Yeah, and so you could see his like. I was looking at his eye in the corner. That guy was about to quit because he just put in the deep end of the pool, not being ready, and that's not really his fault. It's a name brand thing. It happens to a lot of guys who have names from whether the jiu-jitsu world or this world. They get pushed up a little too, too high and to something they can't deal with. But he's not good. I mean, for the short amount of time he's training, he looks okay.
He trains with the American top team.
Yeah. And for the short amount of time he's training, he looks okay. But he doesn't have the experience, and he just looked terrible. And the guy, Crowder, sucks. Like, let's get this straight. The guy who's fighting sucks. And he was supposed to be the guy to lose to this guy. And then he starts running a clinic on him with striking. He's like, oh, you're tired. Even though that guy sucked, he's like, oh, I can hit you at will. But then he was stupid, and he got this huge guy on top of him. But he's like, okay, I'm going to play with my hands and try and get up. And they got knee in the face, which, okay, this is the thing. And I have an experience. Like, one time I was in a boxing match, right? That was, training boxing to get ready for MMA. And, obviously I've been grappling for a long time before that. And, most of my training had been in an MMA context. At that point, I had not fought MMA yet. But the first thing I did, the guy hit me in a boxing match. I changed levels, picked him up, and dumped him in a double leg takedown. Like you do what you like. You don't think. So I think he was like not trained enough to say, "Hey, I can't do this anymore."
Yeah, he had a flashback to how he beat up his girlfriend.
Exactly, something like that. No, I mean it's a terrible thing to say, but to him, a fight's a fight, and I don't think it was intentional. I'm not in his head. I just think it was a tremendous lack of experience, and he should never have been the main card. Especially, I didn't know about domestic violence. He shouldn't even be on the show. But also, he sucks. Like, you should be like not even in the UFC for a while.
He's only been training MMA
like
since
2 years.
2016.
Yeah, 2 years. Yeah, and you could see it. He's like, okay, he's an athletic guy who trained for 2 years. Okay, yeah, And let me tell you, he's going to wind up like Francis Ngannou. If he gets put on his back, that kid will not have the skills to get up and do anything. He just won't. He will not. So
I just would love to like him against Cormier or Miocic, any of these high level heavyweights. It would be so amazing.
Well, that's the thing. I think that's why the UFC. Look, at the end of the day, I don't like to look at it like this, but at the end of the day, it is entertainment. So they always have some crazy weird fight sometimes. Like, look, Brock Lesnar is a name more than he is skill. Now, he was wedded to having some serious wrestling skill, but if Brock Lesnar had never done the WWE, like, it wouldn't mean anything, right? There's always some sort of like, hype and marketing. And this guy coming from football, being a heel, a bad guy, probably keys into that. And that being said, also, the heavyweight division right now.
That sucks.
Yeah, it's like not a lot of guys. And there's a lot of guys stepping out, and the heavyweights are kind of perennially a little bit of a weaker division. So they need to fill the roster, and I get that. It's just this guy needed more time. I don't think he's a good guy in terms of what he did personally. I don't really know the details, but it seems pretty horrible.
Mm-hmm.
But putting all that aside, you are not ready for prime time. This is you should be fighting amateur. You look like an amateur.
Yeah.
You should
I
be
think he
fighting
only had,
amateur.
3 professional fights.
Yeah, you should be in the amateur wing, learning, and you need a few more years to do this. And I actually don't think, first of all, but even before that, it was a terrible fight. It was 2 really non-technical guys doing shitty MMA, which happens sometimes. So my balls are hot guy. He's
Derek
not that
Lewis.
good either. It's just two
He's better
guys.
than Hardy.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. I don't know. It's hard to say. No, probably you're right.
He's got more followers on
He
Instagram.
definitely has more followers. I would say.
Thanks to Joe Rogan.
But
Not the main event.
yeah, the guy shouldn't. It was just terrible.
Yeah, we can agree on that. I don't think we'll see him again for a while. And then,
The main event.
Yes, the main event.
It was pretty crazy.
What happened to Dillashaw?
Well, okay.
We all picked him. Well,
First-
you picked
Cejudo. Kind of. Yeah,
And-
I was leaning towards Dillashaw, but I could see it going either way. But I was leaning towards Dillashaw. I'll be honest. I
but
was
most
leaning-
people picked Dillashaw.
for sure.
Even
And
Vegas odds had Dillashaw.
one of my friends bet heavily on Cejudo, and he said, because this is really interesting. It wasn't just Cejudo versus Dillashaw, but they have a lot of sports scientists behind them that are doing all this hormone analysis and blood testing and real scientific training.
Cheating.
No. I mean,
Taking the fun out of it.
Yeah, no, but I mean, it's like
above
they're-
board, yeah.
It's 2 entourages, and the thing is, going down in weight is very hard, especially if you're a leaner guy. Like if you're 270 pounds, you probably have a lot of fat on you could lose. When you're walking around at 150, you're probably leaner. Getting down to 135 is hard. Getting down to 125 is harder. And the minute I saw TJ Dillashaw walking in the cage, I'm like, is that the same guy?
He looked very
And
small.
his science camp told him that we can get him down to 195, 125, and you could be functional. And I have to admit, actually, when I heard the fight, I thought it was a 135. And I consistently, even though people told me, my wife told me a few times, her friends, I'm like, no, it's going to be at 135, of course, because he's too lean to get to 135. I caught it in my head that it was at 135, even though it was not. And then, of course, my wife, she goes, no, it's at 125. I'm like, really? Mm-hmm. And then he comes in, and I'm like, oh, my God, he is not the Dillashaw at 135. And I think, it was a failure of the science behind him to get ready, and he's just not used to fighting at that weight class. I think the last time he was at that weight class probably when he was in high school. So because his body's not generated. And did you see how Cejudo just pushed him?
Yeah,
so for the
moving
guys who didn't
around.
see the fight, it opens up and he just gives him a shove, which is actually not really a good move because you can open for an overhand counter. So he just shoves him, and TJ just falls over. You're like, I think Cejudo's so sometimes he's not technically correct in certain things, which is much less now than before, but he has a fight sense of all those years of Olympic level, and I think he smelled that problem. He smelled the weakness. He was
test
like,
him.
yeah, he's like, you seem weak.
Let's see if I can knock you over.
Yeah, let me see. And he's like, oh, you're a little off balance, bam, because there was a little footwork.
Yeah.
So it was. I think that's also why he said, let me fight you 135 next, because let's see what you really have. And do you think it was, I saw you post that you thought it was a little a quick stoppage. What do you think? You thought it was quick?
I did. I thought it was. I didn't see
Nathan didn't think so.
Yeah.
Oh,
Brother-in-law
battle of brother-in-laws.
did not believe that it was an early stoppage. I didn't see that he wasn't trying to improve his position. I think that he was on the path of losing.
Yeah.
And maybe to spare him further injury, that is, the referee decided to stop it. But I did think that he was making moves to improve his position and defend himself, and he wasn't knocked out from what I saw. I didn't see him close his eyes, so I'm not sure. And
the first time I saw it, I completely agreed with everything you said. I said it was early. I've watched it about 10 times so far, and I don't know. I can't say because it looks so much worse when you watch it slow motion and you really see what's going on. Because I missed a little bit the first time I saw it. He is getting shellacked. But at the end of the day, you're right. He was, because this is what happens when you kind of get knocked out. And this happened to me the time one of my fights I got knocked out. You're kind of there, but you're not. And I was arguing with the judge, and I was attacking him at first because you're out of it. You think the judge is your opponent, and you're arguing and this. And when Dillashaw got the fight stopped, he's like so calm and collected. He just kind of puts his hands on his hips and goes, "Dude, I was there. I was defending myself." And he's so calm that you can see that he was not out at all. Yeah. And if you look at again, the ref, it actually runs in to stop it once, stops, jumps back because he sees it going. Then he runs in to stop it again, stops, and then he goes the third time because, I mean, Dillashaw was getting dropped. And it's bad. Like, he did get hit a lot. Yeah. But at the end of the day, he was stopping the fight for the drop before that we saw because he just took him time to get in. So he was like jumping in, jumping out, jumping in, jumping out. And then I feel for that ref because he did not make a mistake. I don't think he made a mistake. It's a really tough job. And fighter safety is important, but he was stopping the fight 3 seconds earlier. It just took him 3 seconds to get there, right? So he saw him get hit, go down, and he's running in. And he was like, okay, there's been a lot of damage here. Let me stop this. But at that point, Dillashaw was defending himself. I mean, he was fighting. He was fighting. He was open. He was fighting. I think fighter safety is important. But for the championship fight, for the best guys in the world, gotta let it play out a little bit. And then, the same thing happened way back when in Pride, where Royler Gracie was fighting Sakuraba. And Royler Gracie gets put in this like horrific kimura. You know what? The fight was probably over. But the Japanese refs stop it. Because they're like, oh, we want to keep it safe. I'm like, dude, it's his choice at that point. And you never know. Maybe he just, has a really flexible shoulder and knows a way to get out. You let it play out, man. This is a fight. They guys know what they sign up for. They're getting paid. And they have an out, and their coaches have an out. I thought it should have been. That my first instinct was they should give it a few more seconds. But when you watch it in slow motion too, you see how bad he's getting hit. So my thing is, I don't know. I have to see it. He's getting shellacked.
Yeah.
And one of the most important things of this is the first blow was the kick, which Dillashaw blocked. And those guys fighting out we were training, it's really important to know, as I talk about this all the time, he blocked like a boxer. He brought his hand up to his temple, right? And Dillashaw is one of the few guys who I see, I mean, obviously I'm not in his camp, but I see him training a lot with boxing gloves. Now, obviously you know that because, you want to protect your hands and all that, and that's it. But what happens is it gives you a very false sense of security. So boxing gloves are quite big, and if you eat a kick and you kind of block like a boxer, you can kind of protect yourself from those kicks. You have to bring your hand further back, and MMA gloves are really small. They're not padded, especially each ring has their own. Like Bellator has a little different gloves, Japanese have a little different gloves. ONE FC has a little different gloves, but the UFC gloves are very small, and they have absolutely no curvature whatsoever, which is why there's the finger poking issue. When you block, you've got to bring your hand all the way back to the back of your head, to the medulla oblongata, the little bump in the back of your head, and to protect it, which is that little occipital, ridge, that little occipital bump there. If you don't block all the way there and that kick comes around, you are going to get rocked. Now, it's not technically our traditional definition of a concussion, which is where your brain is a pinball and it's pinballing in your head, but you're getting disrupted. And he got hit right in the back of the head, and that was... His brain is not rehydrated enough because he was at 125, and he was like, whoa. So, not only was there the scientific failure to get him back in shape and hydrate up to withstand, because you can't get hit hard when you're dehydrated. It's just more trauma. So he, one, blocked incorrectly, but two, his science camp failed him in getting him there. And then that was the beginning of the end, And then the other thing is this. He was too much of a wrestler. Because he could have wrestlers don't want to go to their back. So he's scrambling, and he was protecting him. He was fighting, but he was eating because he kept going for the shot to escape the ground and pound. Now, I don't, I think he should have fallen on his back and what we call pulling guard, or try to put his feet on the guy's hips, cover his head, get some guard, and try to protect himself. I think that would have been a better strategy to recover from those first, I think it's like 15 straight blows or something. I didn't look at the statistics before the podcast. I forgot what it was, but Cejudo hit him a lot, a lot. And he need time to recover. The same thing that Cyborg did, that she just went in. Sometimes you got to go out and recover. You can't be always aggressive. The answer of you getting hit is not charge in and hit them more or charge in and wrestle them more.
Right.
Come back and recover. And it was 3 things. 1, he blocked wrong. 2, the weight cut dehydrated him. And 3, he should have used a little bit more jiu-jitsu, a little less wrestling. Now, his wrestling was amazing, but at the same time, you're trying to wrestle at one point, the best wrestler in the world.
Yeah, Olympic level.
Yeah, who's punching you.
Yeah.
So you probably shouldn't wrestle. You should sit back and pull guard and try to get him in a position where you can, you can at least protect your head.
Yeah.
Guard your head. And then I'm sure you could scramble up. You could do something. Was it a quick stoppage? I'm still on the fence. I think you could see both arguments. Fighter safety is very important, but at the same time, it is a championship match. And there's been lots of fights where in the championship level, someone like Herb Dean or whatever has let it go on a little longer because it is the highest level. So you have to kind of trust that their experience, they know what they're doing. If it's like an amateur fight or a low-level UFC fight, even nothing, stop it. Okay, it's over. Boom. You got dropped 3 times. If the guy's still moving and still working around, still working, But when I watched it in slow motion, it looked really bad too. So I'm on the fence. Anyway,
Hard to
but that's
say.
hard to say. But
Do they fight again at 135?
I think they should. I think they should. But you know what? This says something about the 125 division. I really hope they don't get rid of it. It looks like they will. Man, they're so technical there. Cejudo's so good. And, he's going to shorten his career by going to 135. I think he should stay 125 and fight, a lot of other guys there and just demonstrate, his technical prowess. And he's really interesting because I love the modern TJ Dillashaw striking style of some of what he does. Yeah, obviously his kick's a little funky, but he's always switching stance and he's interesting. And Cejudo's very much like a karate boxer, and he's a little bit linear. And when he came in, he was doing that basic karate. We call it the oizuki or gyakuzuki. You can call it either one, but he's basically kind of chasing him with a little bit more linear movement, and he shoots like he boxes. He goes linear, but at the same time, it really works for him, and he destroys the modern game's angles. So I really like what he's saying. I want to see him do that more, and he's tremendous. He's just so accurate and but he's actually, funny enough, he's not a fast striker because he's so strong upper body that his hand speed is actually probably a little bit slower than, say, Dillashaw's, right? So he's not like, his hands aren't like super, super, super duper fast. But because he's so muscular, generally the more muscle you pack on your shoulders, it kind of takes away from that fast twitch response, right? But he's always in an angle where he can get stuff off, and he did that with Demetrius Johnson too. And he threatens his takedowns enough that people have to respect it. And I think Dillashaw didn't give Cejudo enough respect with his hands, but at the same time, he also made some technical errors. And I would like to see it at 135 where he's flushed out with water and he's like and retools. I would love to see that fight again, but really, Cejudo's a 125er. So let's have him fight the best guys at 125. And by far, some of the most entertaining fights I've seen are from lighter fighters. Yeah. Especially, there was one Rob Font, a couple other guys in the lighter division. They're just really, really technical and fun to watch. The opposite of freaking Hardy Crowder garbage.
Yeah, I'd love to see a fight. One of those rather than a Hardy fight again.
Yeah. So that was my take. But overall, it was probably one of the most entertaining cards.
Best one of the year, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's certainly the best one of the year. It's only been a few, but or the first one, I guess, right? Second one, right? First one, right? So it was great. It was great. A lot to learn too about how to use scrambling and how not to use scrambling, in wrestling for positive effect and for negative. And like I said, T.J. Dillashaw used too much wrestling, and then there was like Benavidez and Ortiz who used wrestling in a really great way, and Van Zandt and Ostovich too, wrestling scrambles in great ways. So two sides of like how wrestling can be an amazing thing for you and also work to your disadvantage. Mm-hmm. So that's my take on that card.
Very cool. We have to wait a long time to see another UFC event because 233 was canceled.
What? No kidding.
You didn't hear that?
No.
Yeah, UFC 233 is canceled. So
what happened? Injuries or?
Well, let me check the Wikipedia. But the next event's not until February 2nd. Well, not February something.
9th? That's not that far. It's only a couple weeks.
It doesn't say why it was canceled. Oh, cancellation, background. Doesn't say.
All right. Well, I guess next week we can talk about some other stuff too.
Yeah.
All right. So that was a great recap of that fights. And man, if the ESPN continues to have this kind of matchmaking, I think it's amazing. So I was very talented, very, very entertained, and to see most of the talent except for the co-main event, which was a garbage.
Oh,
other than that, it was really good.
Yes, yeah. The fight night is on February 2nd, so this Saturday.
Oh, this Saturday, yeah.
We don't have to wait for anything. It's in Brazil. A lot of Brazilian names on the card.
Oh, cool.
Damian Maia's fighting.
Oh, wow. We can criticize the shot again. You know, I did say some good things about Damian Maia too.
You did.
Yeah.
I have to go deep in
Actually,
the archives.
I really like Damian Maia. Just his shot is not good. That's it.
I can't pronounce any of those names.
Okay, so we got
Hinata
Moicano. Oh, that guy's good. Jose Aldo, of course. Damian Maia, Lyman Good. Interesting. Lyman Good's originally from New York. He's a striker. Charles Olu. Oh my God, this is a great card. Oh my God.
ESPN coming in hot.
Yeah, Marlon. Do you don't remember Marlon Moraes? He's Moraes. He's the bald guy. He looks like he's a Brazilian Eddie Alvarez. he's short and bald, and he's actually a tremendously gifted striker. Oh my God, this card is packed.
Oh boy!
Well, I will be watching this.
It's kicking in.
It's too matcha. Yeah, it should be. Wow, this should be great. So, David Tamer. Wow, a lot of strikers on this card too. Interesting.
And Renee gave me the tip that ESPN Plus is doing a free 2-week trial.
Yeah. That they were. Yeah.
So I'm sure they're doing it now. So get on it.
Yeah.
Use promo code Go Fuck Yourself. Well, we don't have a promo code.
Language, Matt. No.
That's it for this week. Any? Oh, let's end it right there.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, guys,
right.
and we'll see you next week.
Right.
Thanks for listening. Follow us on Twitter at Marshall_Culture and on Instagram at MarshallCultureCast. Please leave a review on iTunes, and we'll see you next time on the Marshall Culture Podcast.